Hello, I'm Tara Ledesma,
And this is Andy Ledesma.
and we're your hosts of the Gapers Delay podcast. And welcome to episode 8, where we're going to talk about some shitty investments and some shitty contractors that we experienced or shitty job experiences. Basically, this is an episode that would hopefully give people the idea to cover their ass, CYA, if you will. My husband here is a floor installer, so he has been in the business for quite a long time. How long ago? How many years has it been, you think?
It's a little over 30 years.
Wow, 30,
almost 31 years.
31 years. I remember when you did a floor for a family member. That was the first floor I got to see you do.
Yeah.
Was for a family member.
Yeah, it was a family deal special, and I basically just charged by the hour to do it, and so this way they would get it for as cheap as possible. I decided to go the cheapest routes possible on how to do it after I explained all the different options, and then basically at the end of the day I really made less an hour than what I would have made if I was just working for my boss. And then that family member turned around and told other members of the family that I ripped them off.
That I remember, that you didn't do a good job and you overcharged them.
Yeah, which just the opposite.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was pretty shitty.
Yeah, well, that's what some family does to you. Mm.
Well, expectations versus outcomes. I guess that's why contracts are important.
Well, yeah, and I was still new at that in the sense, like, I'm pretty good at reading customers now. Back then, though, too, it was just family, so I didn't really...
You assumed that there wouldn't be...
Right, there wouldn't be a problem because, well, it's family, But that's not the case always.
Yeah, well, blood isn't always thicker than water, right?
No, definitely not. And then, I had somebody who I did work for. I left my first boss to go work for this other guy, and he was partners with my old boss. And the deal was I would come work for him, and I would, work extra hours if needed to get jobs done. But then when work slowed down, and say I only worked 3 days a week or 4 days a week, I'd still get paid my 40. And he said okay to that, and I wanted a week's paid vacation. But when all that came down to it, yeah, he told me, I can't pay you for hours you didn't work. And then didn't pay me for my week's paid vacation, even though that was agreed upon.
Was that a verbal agreement?
It was just a verbal agreement, so I should have got it in writing, but...
You were young.
I knew the guy for a long time at that time. He hadn't done me wrong at that point, so I figured, why would he do that now?
There seems a pattern here. We're 2 stories in, and there seems to be a pattern of trusting people. Both people of which you've, known for a minute. And
well, I tend to try and see the best in people if I know them pretty well, and I think they take advantage of that.
Yeah, I don't think you can run a business with that kind of outlook.
No.
I think that's why a lot of business owners come across as crass, because of, you have to guard your assets, otherwise you're not going to be in business anymore.
Right.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And then I remember when we moved out to another location and expanded our horizons. And did I open up the company? I can't remember if I had the company open for...
Oh, yeah.
So I think it was sometime around 07, I think, late 07, 08, somewhere around there, where I opened the flooring company, and you kind of took over and ran it. And then we ran into some more bad investments in contractors. Yeah, that's, I guess, part of the business, though.
Yeah. Well, one of our first customers was a person who I worked with out in the field. He worked for a big builder, and he left them and went on his own. So that was somebody who, as the sales and installation side of the business that you opened, I got them as a customer. It was like a given pretty much right away, since we had like a relationship, a friendship.
A working relationship.
Yeah, it was kind of like a friendship, but I wouldn't say it was like a tight friendship. But so then I made the mistake in telling them one time that they gave us 50% of my work.
Yeah.
And not realizing that I kind of screwed myself when I said that, because these are the type of people who take advantage of those situations. But
And
I had
they
no
did.
idea that that's the type of people they were initially. So then, they would, after a job was usually over in the beginning, I'd get paid right away. Well, after telling them that, it got dragged out from a week or two after the job got done. Then it turned into 30 days, and it got all the way up to 90 days that they were waiting, holding money to pay me. And then when they're finally well, yeah, we could pay you, but I know we agreed upon this dollar amount.
I remember that, yeah.
And they would always try and cut it 10% or 15% off of the job.
We know you need the money. So
right.
Basically they were waterboarding us.
They were dangling the carrot over
right.
my head and saying, you can have it, but it's a little bit smaller carrot now.
Yeah,
we'll give it to you right away. Yeah, and so they give me the money right away. And I just said, fine, whatever. So, and then one time, there was agreement they would pay me right away since the job was done. And the guy who I knew really well was really the main guy. The other guy handled the books and the paying and everything else. And I complained to the person who I knew really well. They hadn't paid me yet. And he goes, what? Why didn't he pay you yet? And I go, I don't know. Everything is done and completed. He goes, well, he was supposed to pay you a week or two
and
ago.
They were ignoring invoices.
Yeah. So he went to him and told him, and so he called me up and said, come get your check, kind of an attitude. And I pull up. He's a very large guy, really, compared to me. He was probably twice my size. Looked like he was on steroids because he was just so jacked up that he took two steps towards me as he was saying, well, what were you telling on me? Blah, blah, blah. And I go, and he took two steps towards me, flexing. And I took two steps up to him and I said, dude, what, you don't think I'm going to stick up for myself? And I go, you don't know me. You don't know where I come from. Hey. And the look on his face was like nobody had ever done that to him before. And it kind of scared him. So I'm just not saying I could have kicked his ass, but, I ain't afraid of it.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's one thing. Yeah, not to be afraid to get your ass kicked.
Right.
Maybe that's just the South Side thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So.
Who knows?
Yeah, and then there was, what else was there? Well, there was the other friend of ours who opened up a flooring business, but wasn't into the type of flooring I was into.
Really don't like this trend.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a really close friend of ours. Very close friend of ours for a few years. And he was in the tile side. I was in the wood side. So he would get work and sub it out to me. Well, then he became partners with this other shady character who has a criminal record.
Yeah, I remember looking that up. Because I looked it up and seen that he was arrested for home invasions. And here they are doing work in people's homes, which was whoa. I mean, I wish I would have known that prior to doing work with them.
Yeah.
Definitely started doing background checks after that one.
Yeah. Well, he was really more the problem, and the other guy just kind of fell into it with him because he was
caught in a trap.
Yeah. I know they were doing some extracurricular things that,
some businessmen do at parties,
Right. Stay awake.
Yeah.
And that's when it all started going downhill. And it was a big job I did for them, and they owed me $4,000 or $5,000. And I threatened to put a lien against the property, and it wasn't even done yet, the work that they were doing. They were doing a very extensive remodel. So they gave me $3,000 of the $5,000, but I never got the other two.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's because the rest of it was probably used for their extracurricular activities. Because didn't they end up dissolving or changing a business name? Or I don't remember.
They completely dissolved it and everything, yeah.
Editing that out.
Yeah.
He wound up leaving the state, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And haven't talked to that one since. Yeah, that's, and then we had a business investment where we pulled out money, got a couple family members involved, and pooled together some money and invested in a business idea. And it was all, from what I gather, it appears to be a scam.
Yeah.
And it appears to be indicative of history with this person, in regards to interactions with other people as well. So there's a pattern there that I learned afterwards that this was so we invest the money into this business idea, and then we get updates on the idea. We get, where it's at, what stage it's in, what they're doing, the patent, blah, blah, blah. And then I noticed that the business was closed and they opened up another business, similar name, but a new, identification number, which makes it a brand new entity. So I know how that works. So they tried saying that our investment is still valid and that the business is still open, when I knew that was a flat out lie, and all that money was just taken and probably used to pay off other lawsuits or whatever they had going on. I don't know. That just sounds like a shit show that I don't want any part of. My life is a shit show enough. I don't need any more shit shows like that. That was, again, a friend of yours, right? Didn't you work for that person at one point?
Knew him for about 20 years. And he helped me out a lot too, though, over the years. So I didn't expect him to do that. I think that's just his way of doing things, I guess. He plays he plays the very long game, because I mean,
dedication.
When I worked for him, he had a whole brand new Force tires put on my vehicle, and he completely paid for it and didn't ask for any of the money back.
Yeah, maybe that's the grooming.
Yeah, I guess.
That could be like...
That's a really long game, because we didn't talk for quite a few years.
Well...
So he was taking a roll of a dice on that one, I guess. But, I don't know.
Well, it looks like his dice rolls have been paying off.
Yeah, well, I never expected it from him, because just of all the things he's gone out of his way to do for me in the past. So,
see, and that's what blows my mind, is almost every story so far started off with, oh, I've known that person.
Yeah.
And then it went south. Yeah. And it's crazy that we've almost pretty much taken a loss on every single hit. Yeah, but 'tis life in the investment game, I guess. And then same with housing, I remember when we were given the option after my mom had passed to purchase my childhood home, and the price offered was not a family discount, in my opinion, by any means, considering the condition of this house. The raccoons living in it. We got a how many page report on a home inspection that I still have a copy of. And so they sold it for $200,000 to a stranger. And I wanted it for a little less than that, because it needed a lot of work put into it. And he was willing to give me the house for $200,000, calling that the family discount, but that's what the stranger paid for it. But that same stranger ended up selling the house 2 years later. And I wonder why. Because remember every winter that came around when we moved out, and we were thinking, oh, I wonder how the pipes are doing in the bedroom, because those are the first ones to freeze.
Yep, they freeze every year.
Yeah, like really bad, because there was no insulation there, was there?
None that I could tell. It was just, never could understand why it was so bad.
Well,
but something wasn't done right. But
a lot of things weren't done right, according to that report I have.
You'd have to open up the walls to find out exactly what was going on, but it wasn't my house to do that. But so I wasn't going to do that. Right,
no, that's, yeah. And, yeah. What were we going to do? So.
And then there was a septic field completely destroyed.
Well, in all honesty, I did not know that, because my mom and sister both had passed from cancer, I didn't know that the drugs or medication from, treatment can damage the septic or, your pipes or plumbing and all that.
Even just you go into the bathroom and it probably can destroy it.
Right. That's what, we read that some places? So, I wonder if that exacerbated the situation with that, because I know it was bad. Yeah, and it kept getting worse.
Putting radiation waste into your septic field.
It's right. But how do you avoid that? What do you do?
You'd have to move out of that and go into a house.
That had to be redone. you and I both know that. On top
Completely
of all of the problems in the house, there was literally baby raccoons living in the fireplace. You can hear them in the front room while watching TV. It was very distracting. Or when your kid was little upstairs sleeping and she'd see the raccoons like basically waving to her through the attic in her closet. Like just, oh, hey, how's it going? You know, that's a little too close. You know, I'm not that National Geographic, okay? I'm not that, you know, save an animal to that extent. You know, I'll donate to a cause.
Well, you could get them out, but
they're going to come right
back. They come right back.
Right. Yeah. And I remember a video a long time ago when I was a kid watching two family members shoot at it in the old part of the original house. So it's been a problem since the beginning, you know, of when they purchased the house, the raccoons anyway. And what sucks is the amount of time we were given to find a new place was so limited that we really kind of got screwed in the new place we bought. You know, it blows my mind that, and I was like crying on, you know how the day you sign the papers and you have the walkthrough, my heart dropped at the walkthrough. Do you remember that day when we opened the doors? You know, you're expecting an empty house that is, you know, ready to move in. We did this house FHA, so we assumed everything would be, you know,
in order.
In order,
and
right.
we paid for a private inspection too.
That's where it gets fishy, because a private inspection that I paid for was emailed to my realtor and not me. And I even put in a complaint to the IDFPR about that, saying, you know, there's no date, there's no number, his license number isn't on here. How do I know that it wasn't altered before I received it? And I never got the original. So all this, back to when we had closing date, if we had had somewhere to go, we would not be sitting in this house right now. But because the last house that we were not offered a deal on and was told a specific date we had to be out, put us in a position where we had to make decisions. So now we find this house after a short time of looking, and, you know, it wasn't like there was a lot available, if I remember correctly.
It was the one property that had the most things we were looking for.
Right.
Didn't have everything we were looking for.
Right. I actually crossed it off the list initially just because I didn't like the driveway layout, but that's neither here nor there. But I remember on closing day opening the front door, and it looked like somebody was still living here. And I was so devastated. There were two guys that were in the house with garbage cans everywhere, just throwing stuff away. And there was laundry in the washer and dryer. There was dishes in the dishwasher. There was mattresses. When I say this house looked living, everything was still here.
Yeah. And then I almost got into a fight with the two guys who were cleaning it out. And they said they were going to take like a week to clean everything out. And I said, hell no. I go, I'm about to close on the house. You're getting the hell out when I come back.
So it took a week. We had to negotiate there for a dumpster. It took a week to get our stuff in, because we had to get his stuff out.
Right. But these initial people who said they were going to take them a week just to get the house cleaned out. Like, no big deal.
Yeah, that's about how long it took us.
We're going to take our time. That was with us also moving everything in. So if we was going to take the same amount of time, I would have let them do it. But
well, no, because I don't want people I don't know in a house that I just closed on.
Right. Now we're liable for them getting hurt.
I don't want that's. Are you kidding me? No fucking way. That doesn't even make sense. Have you listened to our track record?
No, how many
minutes into this podcast are we in?
We had the house cleaned out in less than 3 days. No.
It was 3. I thought it was longer than that.
No,
I mean, we still have some of the old guys' stuff in this house.
Well, because a lot of the stuff was like, well, I guess we'll just keep this, because it was some value to some of the stuff.
And here's what's crazy is the first attorney I talked to said I didn't have a case. But then the second attorney I talked to, about a year and a half after, because I kept filing complaints and trying, because it didn't make sense how this house was FHA. It didn't make sense that this inspector cannot give me the legitimate, inspection report that it went through the realtor. There was a lot of question marks. And, you know, I have messages and stuff from the seller contacting me directly, trying to negotiate on the side, and, you know, messages from my realtor encouraging it. And I brought all of that to attorneys, and the second attorney said, well, if you would have filed within the first year, you would have had something. And I said, I talked to an attorney the first year. They said I didn't have a case because I could prove via photos that the homeowner did not live here for the year prior to selling the house.
Yeah.
I have photos
Which
of
means
him.
he couldn't honestly say what is wrong, what isn't wrong.
Right. So, because when we moved in, the first time it rained, our kitchen was an indoor water park. Like, we could have charged admission at the door for an indoor water park experience in our kitchen.
Yeah.
That was insane. Insane. And then to turn around and, the propane tank's out. We got to get that filled. Otherwise, we have no stove. And we called the company he used. Apparently he didn't use them often because he wasn't fucking here. So when the inspection, or when the company came out, they wanted to do an inspection on the lines and said that it is not up to code and took away our propane. We still have no gas line to run, by the way. Like, this is still a problem since we bought the house to, like, ongoing. And we got, like, everybody involved in the sale of this home was deemed not liable, even though I was told by the IDFPR that what he did was wrong. They still renewed his license. And I'm sure there's people out there that are nodding their head in the business world. Like, yeah, that sounds about right. You know, I mean, so I'm sure that not a lot of people that, you know, hear this are that shocked that are in the game, because it seems to be more common than not, you know, and it's not a high priority case. So when I sent it to the attorney general, like, they were going to give a shit, you know what I mean? They barely give a shit on, you know, unless it's in the public eye or leveraging their position politically, they don't give a shit.
Yep.
So that's that. But, you know, there's nothing we can do about that. You know, it's just investing in the future now. You know, I wish we would have done that from the beginning, but, you know, better late than never, right? At least you got a good plan.
Yep. After, you know, getting into a major car accident, I just realized something was to happen to me, I would leave my family in a situation, financial situation, that wouldn't be good. So, you know, I felt like I was about to die at one point during that accident, so it freaked me out and made me realize I need to have my
financial affairs in order, I guess,
just in case. Yeah. So, and now since then, I've learned that, you know, if you get a whole life insurance policy, it becomes like a savings account at the same time. You can borrow against it, what you've paid into it, and still keep your insurance policy. If I was to die and I borrowed 10 grand from my life insurance policy, it would just take that off if I died from the payout. And that's it. You still get the thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars payout.
Well, I don't want you to die,
right.
So I don't want the payout. But
the nice part about it is you're paying into something, and you can still, it's tangible, and you can use it when you need to.
So it's like basically loaning yourself money. I wish we would have known about this when we were younger.
It's having a life insurance policy with a savings account attached to it that you can borrow against it whenever you want, and you don't even have to pay it back if you don't ever want to pay it back. You just pay the interest per year on it. That's it. Simple interest, too.
Yeah, I wish we would have done that. Imagine if we would have started that early.
Yeah, I know it'd be worth a whole lot more.
Yeah, well, live and learn, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest lesson of this podcast, folks, is live and learn. Get that shit in writing. Get contracts. Cover your ass. Don't believe anything anybody says unless it's in writing or you've seen it through action with your own eyes. Trust no one and love everyone. Until next time, our friends, have a great holiday season, and we'll talk to you soon.